Violet always trusted family, so when her uncle Dave begged to borrow her cozy lakeside house for a quiet weekend retreat to recover from burnout, she handed him the keys without hesitation. "Just need to fish and nap, kiddo," he promised, ruffling her hair like she was still 12. But 3 days later, Violet returned early to grab a forgotten laptop and froze in the driveway. Strangers in formal wear spilled out of her house, laughing under twinkling patio lights. A banner over the door read, "Congratulations, Megan and Jake." Confused, she pushed through the crowd and found her living room transformed. Her grandmother's quilt was tossed in a corner, replaced by a glittering dessert table. Stumbling into her office, she discovered stacks of brochures. Dream weddings at Willow Lake House, $15,000 per event. Her stomach dropped. Scrolling Dave's social media, she found posts tagging her property as a luxury venue, booked every weekend through fall. Comments gushed, "Such a hidden gem." Violet's hands shook as she checked her security cameras. Footage showed Dave directing workers to haul in chandeliers and fold her furniture into a rented truck. Text popped up on his iPad, left charging in the kitchen. "Next weekend's deposit cleared. Keep the sucker sweet till we secure the fall bookings." When Violet confronted him, Dave scoffed. "Relax. I'm making you rich." He refused to explain the $8,000 charge on her water bill or the wine stains on her white couch. "Family helps family," he snapped, storming out. But Violet wasn't naive anymore. She snapped photos of broken floorboards, screenshotted his sold-out posts, and quietly met a lawyer. "He's violating your rental agreement," the lawyer said. "And if someone gets hurt here, you're liable." Dave's arrogance grew. At a family BBQ, he bragged about his side hustle, calling Violet a control freak when she demanded answers. "Who cares about a few scratches?" he laughed, waving a beer. That night, Violet's camera alerts buzzed. Workers were back, hanging fairy lights for a viral TikTok wedding. She called the police and raced over. Chaos erupted as officers shut down the event. Guests screamed when Violet flashed proof the venue was a scam. Dave turned purple, screaming, "You're ruining me," while brides demanded refunds. A video of his meltdown went viral. Number scam uncle trended for days. The lawyer pounced. Dave was forced to repay every dollar he'd made, plus repairs. To salvage his reputation, he sold his car to cover costs. Meanwhile, Violet repainted the house and launched Willow Lake events, with contracts banning relatives. Her first client? Megan, the dumped bride, who hosted a flawless vow renewal there. At Thanksgiving, Dave arrived late, stinking of fast food. He griped about his tiny apartment, blaming ungrateful millennials. Violet smiled, passing him paper plates. "Careful, Uncle Dave," she said sweetly. "Those cost extra." Months later, a glowing magazine feature dubbed Violet the Queen of Lake Weddings. Comments flooded in. "How'd you get started?" She'd wink and say, "Trust no one, not even family." But in her office, she kept a framed screenshot of Dave's first brochure, now pinned under her Business Owner of the Year award. The caption read, "Some retreats turn into battles. Win yours." Dave? Last she heard, he was hawking discount fishing gear online and begging to borrow her lake house again. Violet's newfound success with Willow Lake events didn't shield her from family drama. Just as summer bookings peaked, her cousin Emily called, tearfully begging to host her wedding at the lake house. "Please, Vi," Emily pleaded. "Dad ruined my savings. This is all I can afford." Violet hesitated, memories of Dave's betrayal flashing back. But Emily had always been kind, bringing soup when Violet had the flu years ago. Reluctantly, Violet agreed, on strict terms, a signed contract, a non-negotiable deposit, and no surprises. The week of the wedding, things seemed perfect. Emily hugged Violet tightly, gushing over the floral arrangements. But on the big day, Violet noticed extra tables crammed onto the lawn. Emily's fiancé shrugged. "A few more guests won't hurt, right?" Then came the vintage motorcycle roaring up the driveway, a groom's entrance Emily had kept secret. Violet's chest tightened. She pulled Emily aside, contract in hand. "Either these bikes go, or the wedding does." Emily's sweet facade cracked. "You're as heartless as everyone says," she spat, but Violet stood firm. The bikes left, and the ceremony proceeded, awkwardly. Later, as staff cleaned up, Violet found her grandmother's quilt draped over a chair, rescued from storage. She traced its stitches, remembering how Dave had tossed it aside. Now it lay proudly displayed, a symbol of boundaries earned. But the piece didn't last. Online reviews flooded in, one-star rants calling Willow Lake rigid and greedy. Emily's friends, it seemed, had launched a smear campaign. Violet fought back. She posted security footage of the motorcycles tearing up her garden, captioned, "Some surprises cost more than money." The hashtag number sign, Truth Over Family, trended. Clients rallied in the comments, praising her professionalism. Even Megan, her first bride, chimed in, "Real venues have rules, fake uncles don't." By autumn, Violet's bookings doubled. She hired a team, including a no-nonsense events manager who triple-checked contracts. At night, she sketched plans for a lakeside cottage, a cozy rental for small gatherings, far from the main house. But as she scouted locations, a letter arrived. Dave, now a disheveled figure selling fishing gear online, had written, "Your mom says you're too busy for family. Guess the apple doesn't fall far." Violet crumpled the note. Family meant less these days, but her phone buzzed. A reality TV producer wanted to feature Willow Lake on a bridal show. Violet smirked, imagining Dave's face on TV. "Let's discuss," she typed, then paused. Taped to her desk was Emily's wedding photo, the guests laughing under twinkling lights. Beneath it, Violet had scribbled, "Trust takes work. So does success." She hit send, not to the producer, but to Emily. "Coffee next week, no contracts. Maybe bridges could be rebuilt. With caution." After all, Violet had learned the hard way. Not all surprises were disasters. Some were just lessons in disguise. As for Dave, rumor had it he'd tried converting his tiny apartment into a luxury fishing retreat. Reviews were brutal. 1 star, smells like bait. Violet's lakeside cottage plans finally broke ground. The foundation laid where wildflowers once bloomed. But as workers dug, a rusted lockbox emerged, crammed with yellowed letters and a faded photo of her grandmother standing beside a stranger at the lake. The letter's shaky script read, "To my Clara, keep our secret safe." Violet's pulse quickened. Had her grandmother hidden a past even the family didn't know? Before she could investigate, Emily arrived for their coffee meetup, eyes red from crying. "I'm sorry," she blurted. "Dad pressured me to trash your reviews. He's still bitter." Violet slid her a tissue, her guard softening. "We're all his puppets, huh?" Emily nodded, revealing Dave had promised her wedding funds if she taught Violet a lesson. The confession stung, but Violet offered a truce. Emily could work off her debt by helping at the cottage. "No surprises," Violet warned. Emily agreed, gratitude flickering in her smile. Construction hit a snag when inspectors flagged unauthorized modifications. Violet's permits were in order, but someone had filed fake complaints under her name. Security footage revealed a familiar figure lurking at the site. Dave's old business partner, clipboard in hand. Violet's lawyer pounced, uncovering a plot to delay the project so Dave could lease the land to a rival venue. "Pathetic," Violet muttered, posting the footage online with the caption, "Some people can't let go of failure." Followers flooded with support, dubbing her number Cottage Queen. The reality TV offer resurfaced, the producer now insisting on a family reconciliation arc. Violet nearly declined, until Emily begged, "Let's show Dad we control the story." Reluctantly, Violet agreed, but on her terms, no mention of Dave, just the cottage's journey. Filming began, crews capturing the lockbox mystery and Emily's earnest efforts. Viewers adored their tense but growing bond, dubbing them number sister goals. One night, as Violet sorted her grandmother's letters, a knock startled her. A silver-haired woman stood at the door, clutching the same photo from the lockbox. "I'm Clara's sister," she whispered. "Your grandma hid this place to protect it, from our Dave-like brother." The revelation hit Violet like a tide. History had repeated itself. The cottage opened in spring, its first event a memorial for Clara. Family grudges melted as relatives shared stories Violet had never heard. Even Dave slunk in, avoiding eye contact. Violet handed him a brochure for the cottage's budget fishing tours. His old bait business logo crossed out. "You're ruthless," he grumbled. "Learned from the best," she replied. As guests danced under fairy lights, Violet unfolded her grandmother's quilt over Clara's memorial bench. The camera crew captured it all, But Violet didn't care about the footage. For once, family felt complicated, but hers. Later, Emily handed her a letter from the silver-haired stranger. Clara would be proud. Keep the secrets that matter. Violet tucked it beside the lockbox, now displayed in the cottage lobby. Outside, the lake glittered, holding stories old and new. Some battles, she realized, weren't about winning, but rebuilding. Even if the blueprints kept changing. Dave? He left early, muttering about bad vibes, but not before pocketing a s'more. Some habits, like family, died hard. The morning after Clara's memorial, Violet woke to a voicemail from the reality TV producer. Ratings skyrocketed, he cheered. But viewers want drama. What's this family secret with the lockbox? Violet deleted it. She'd promised Emily no more exploitation. But as she opened the cottage for the day, a courier delivered a legal notice. Cease commercial use of property pending heritage review. Attached was a grainy photo of her grandmother's letters, stolen from the lockbox. Panicked, Violet checked security feeds. The footage showed a shadowy figure breaking in overnight. Someone who knew the code. Emily swore she hadn't told a soul. Unless... Violet's voice trailed off. They raced to Dave's apartment, finding the door ajar. Inside, maps of the lake house were pinned to the wall, circled in red. But Dave was gone, his laptop open to an email chain with the developer. The land's historic. Restrictions mean she'll lose it. We'll swoop in cheap. Violet's lawyer warned the heritage claim was shaky, but could freeze her business for months. Desperate, she posted Clara's letters online, crowdsourcing clues about the secret. Followers dissected every word until a historian messaged, "Your grandmother wasn't hiding the land, she was hiding a person." The faded photo stranger, he claimed, was a famed architect who'd vanished in the 1950s, Clara's rumored lover. The news went viral. Reporters camped at the lake house, demanding interviews. Violet's inbox flooded with conspiracy theories, until a handwritten note arrived. "Meet me at the dock." I knew Clara. It was signed Lila, the silver-haired woman's name. Under moonlight, Lila revealed Clara's truth. The architect had designed the lake house as a refuge for marginalized artists. But Clara's brother, Dave's grandfather, tried seizing it for profit. Sound familiar? Lila smirked. Clara faked his disappearance to protect him, and the land. She pressed a key into Violet's hand. The cottage basement. Hurry. Violet and Emily pried up the floorboards, uncovering a hidden studio. Walls covered in vibrant murals. Trunks stuffed with art supplies and love letters. Clara's secret haven. Violet filmed the discovery, posting it raw. "Some legacies aren't meant to stay buried," she wrote. The heritage claim dissolved overnight. The site was protected as a cultural landmark. Dave resurfaced, demanding his share of the historic find. Violet handed him Lila's key to a storage unit holding his grandfather's old ledgers, exposing generations of greed. "Your choice," she said. "Burn them or be burned." He left silently, the ledgers tucked under his arm. The reality show aired its finale, but Violet's footage of the studio outshone it. Clara's legacy trended for weeks. Emily moved into the cottage as manager, her wedding planning hustle finally honest. At dawn, Violet sat on the dock, Clara's quilt around her shoulders. Lila joined her, pointing to the horizon. She'd sit here too, worrying she hadn't done enough. Violet laughed. "Guess we're alike." "No," Lila said softly. "You did what she couldn't. End the cycle." As sunlight split the lake, Violet's phone buzzed. A query from a museum. They wanted Clara's art for an exhibit. She replied instantly, "Only if it's named the Survivor's Sanctuary." Dave? He listed his apartment as a historic fixer-upper online. The reviews wrote themselves, 1 star, haunted by karma. The museum exhibit's opening night buzzed with guests admiring Clara's murals, now restored under careful lights. Violet stood by a painting of the lake house, its walls alive with dancers Clara had hidden decades ago. Lila squeezed her shoulder, tears in her eyes. But across the room, Emily stiffened. Nodding toward the entrance, Dave slunk in, wearing a cheap suit and a smirk. He lingered by the guest book, scribbling furiously. Violet's chest tightened, but before she could intervene, the museum curator approached, frowning at his note. "This man claims Clara stole the art," she whispered. Violet scanned the page. Proof of theft available. Contact for details. Dave's number glared up at her. Security escorted him out, but the damage spread online. By morning, conspiracy forums blazed with posts. Famous art stolen by dead grandma. Reporters camped outside again. Emily panicked, but Violet stayed calm. He wants a fight? Let's give him one. She live-streamed from Clara's studio, holding up a brittle journal entry. My brother sells my work as his own. But truth outlives lies. Fans rallied, flooding Dave's bait shop with fake orders. Then, a breakthrough. A viewer recognized Clara's dancer murals from a 1950s newsletter. They match a missing troop's costumes. Violet tracked down the troop's last surviving member, 94-year-old Elena, who gasped at Clara's art. We performed here in secret, she rasped. Clara hid us from her brother and the world. The story exploded. Lake House was LQB plus sanctuary. Dave's smear campaign crumbled. The museum added Elena's interviews to the exhibit, renamed The Survivor's Stage. Violet's bookings tripled, couples now requesting legacy weddings, honoring hidden love stories. At the cottage, Emily hung Dave's framed apology letter, a rambling mess demanding truce. Violet used it as kindling for the fire pit. Should have sold bait, she muttered, but peace was fleeting. A package arrived, Clara's lost locket, mailed anonymously. Inside, a photo of Clara and Elena, young and laughing. The note read, "Secrets protect until they don't." Keep dancing. Violet clasped the locket, eyeing the lake. Somewhere Dave was scheming. Let him. She'd built an army of survivors now. As stars blinked over the water, Violet texted Elena, "Teach me the troop's dances." The reply came fast. "Bring good shoes. Dave?" His bait shop's new sign said historic scam site. Rumor had it he'd taken up line dancing, alone. The museum's success turned Violet's life into a whirlwind. Visitors flocked to see Clara's murals, and journalists begged for interviews, but with fame came chaos. One rainy afternoon, a tour group accidentally backed into the cottage's historic porch, cracking its pillars. Violet's insurance agent grimaced at the damage. Repairs could take months, he warned. Just then, Emily rushed in, waving her phone. "Look what Dave's done now." A viral video showed him leading scandal tours outside the museum, spinning lies about Clara to tourists. "She robbed my family," he barked, selling fake stolen art pamphlets. Violet's lawyer fired off a cease and desist, but Dave just laughed. "Free speech, kiddo." Frustrated, Violet invited Elena to stay at the lake house. The elder's presence brought calm until a storm hit. Thunder shook the cottage as Elena pointed to the lake. Clara always said storms revealed truths. The next morning, floodwaters receded, exposing a collapsed section of shoreline and a rusted safe buried in the mud. Inside, they found Clara's diary from 1957, detailing her brother's plot to sell the land. The last entry chilled Violet. "If I die, know he's responsible," Elena gasped. She didn't drown accidentally. Before Violet could process it, Emily called, voice trembling. "Dave's here. He's demanding the safe." Violet raced back to find Dave clutching the diary, eyes wild. "This proves nothing," he spat. But Elena stepped forward, her stare sharp. "I was there. Your grandfather pushed Clara into the lake during a fight over this land." Dave froze, the diary slipping from his hands. The truth unraveled him. Days later, he posted a shaky video confessing his family's crimes, begging forgiveness. No one bought it, except a documentary crew who offered Violet a deal. Chronicle Clara's true story, with Elena as the star. Violet agreed on one condition. "We film at the lake house, where it all began." As cameras rolled, Emily surprised Violet with a rebuilt porch, its new pillars carved with dancers from Clara's murals. "You're not the only one who can protect her legacy," she said, smiling. The storm's final gift, a letter in the safe's corner, addressed to Violet. "If you're reading this, you've broken the cycle. Proud of you, always. Clara." Dave? His confession video became a meme. Last Violet heard, he'd shaved his head and joined a monastery, though Emily swore she saw him selling tofu hot dogs at the county fair. Violet framed Clara's letter beside the locket, the cottage humming with new life. Some legacies, she realized, weren't about the past, but who carried them forward. As for the diary's dark pages, they stayed locked away. Some truths were better left as warnings, not weapons. The lake, after all, had already settled its debts. The calm after the documentary's success felt like a balm to Violet. Mornings began with the soft lap of lake waves, and evenings ended with Elena's stories by the fire pit. But peace, Violet had learned, was fragile. One breezy afternoon, a courier delivered a thick envelope from a law firm she didn't recognize. Inside, a letter claimed a descendant of Clara's architect lover, Thomas, was seeking recognition and restitution for his stolen contributions to the lake house. Violet's stomach dropped. The name Mateo Silva stared up at her, alongside grainy blueprints signed by Thomas in 1953. Emily paced the cottage kitchen. "This has to be a scam," she insisted. But Violet remembered the faded photo of Clara and Thomas, the one hidden for decades. "What if he's real?" she whispered. Research led her to Mateo, a silver-haired historian in Madrid. Video calling him felt like staring at Thomas' ghost. Same sharp jawline, same intense gaze. "My grandfather designed that house," Mateo said, his accent melodic. "Clara erased him. I want his name restored." Violet bristled. She protected him. Mateo leaned closer. "Or buried him. I have letters proving he wanted credit." The claim went viral. Supporters of Clara's legacy clashed online with art historians demanding truth. Violet's inbox filled with threats and pleas. Even Elena urged caution. Clara kept secrets for reasons. Don't unravel them lightly. Violet dug through Clara's studio, finding a locked drawer she'd overlooked. Inside lay Thomas's letters, pleading with Clara to go public. "Our work deserves light." But Clara's reply was firm. "Your safety or fame. Choose." Violet's hands trembled. Had Clara silenced Tomas to protect him or herself? Mateo arrived unannounced, his presence unsettling the cottage's calm. He studied the murals, fingertips brushing Thomas' hidden signatures in the corner of each painting. "See? He wanted to be seen," he said, triumphant. Violet countered with Clara's letters, but Mateo scoffed. "Fear doesn't erase truth." Emily intervened, proposing a compromise. A plaque beside the murals honoring Thomas, but keeping Clara's story central. Mateo refused. Half measures insult his memory. The stalemate thickened until Elena hobbled forward, gripping Mateo's arm. "Thomas told me Clara offered to flee with him. He chose the art over her. That's why she hid him, to spare his pride." Mateo paled. Later, alone with Violet, he admitted finding Thomas's journal, which confessed his regret. "He loved her more than fame," Mateo murmured, "but his ego, it cost them everything." The next morning, Mateo left a draft agreement. Thomas's name would grace the exhibit's entrance, with a note about his and Clara's collaboration born of love and sacrifice. Violet signed, her chest tight. Some truths, she realized, didn't steal legacies. They deepened them. Weeks later, the updated exhibit reopened. Mateo stood beside Violet, nodding as visitors admired Thomas's name etched in bronze. She was his muse, he admitted to a reporter, but he was her hammer. That night, Violet found Emily repainting the cottage sign, adding "and Thomas" beneath Clara's name. "Compromise," Emily grinned. Violet shook her head, but let it stay. As stars mirrored on the lake, Violet texted Mateo. "Coffee next time you're in town?" His reply, "Only if you show me where they danced." "Dave?" He'd sent a rambling email about historical fairness, which Violet forwarded to Mateo. The response was swift. "Tell the hot dog monk his tofu stinks." Violet laughed, tossing another log on the fire. Some battles ended not with wins, but with quieter, softer truths. And maybe that was enough. The discovery of Thomas's letters had settled like dust, but Violet's peace shattered when a storm cracked an old oak by the lake, its roots tearing open a moss-covered cellar door no one knew existed. Inside, Violet found stacks of canvases, Clara's early work, bold and unrestrained, signed C and T in jagged strokes. A newspaper clipping fluttered loose. Local artist disappears amid scandal. Lover's whereabouts unknown. The date? 1958, a year after Clara's diary ended. Elena's hands trembled as she studied the paintings. "She never showed me these," she murmured. One portrait stopped Violet cold. A younger Elena, mid-dance, her smile fierce and free. Clara painted this the night we met, Elena whispered. Tomas hated it, said it distracted from their real work. Violet's phone buzzed, a message from Mateo. Found Thomas' final letter. You need to see this. The letter arrived, its ink smudged with age. Clara, I'll expose us if you refuse to leave with me. Love shouldn't live in shadows. Clara's reply scribbled on the back. Some loves are seeds. Let them grow underground, Mateo's voice cracked over the phone. He betrayed her, sold sketches of the lake house to a developer. That's why she hid everything. Violet's chest ached. Even Clara's love story was stained. She posted the paintings online, captioning simply, Secrets don't rot, they root. Followers erupted. Clara was a genius. Tomas was a traitor. But Violet shut her laptop, exhausted by the noise. That night, footsteps echoed on the porch. Dave stood in the rain, gaunt and shivering. I'm sick, he rasped. Docs say it's bad. I need help. Violet froze, his plea clawing at old wounds. Emily urged caution, but Elena placed a hand on Violet's arm. Hate is heavy, child. Carry it too long, you'll drown. Violet rented Dave a cramped studio above the bait shop, its walls papered with Clara's old blueprints. Earn your keep, she said, tossing him a broom. He scowled but stayed, his late-night coughing fits echoing through the thin walls. Weeks later, Violet found him slumped over Thomas's letters, a note scrawled in his shaky hand. The developer's grandson wants the land. Watch your back. Beneath it was a name, Lucas Silva, Mateo's cousin. The threat simmered quietly until permits for a lakeside resort surfaced online, filed under Lucas's name. Violet's land was marked for acquisition. Her lawyer warned of loopholes. Thomas's old sketches might give the Silvas a claim. Violet stormed into Dave's studio, but it was empty. On his desk lay a thumb drive labeled Insurance. Security footage showed Lucas offering Dave cash, pointing at the seller. That land's ours, Lucas hissed. Dave's reply? Over my dead body. The next morning, workers found the cellar filled with concrete. Dave stood guard, a shovel in hand. Did one decent thing, he muttered, avoiding Violet's gaze. She almost thanked him until he coughed into a handkerchief, specked with blood. The battle shifted. Violet partnered with Mateo, combining Clara's art with Thomas's blueprints into a traveling exhibit, The Buried Truth. Profits funded legal fights to protect the land. Lucas backed off, his social media flooded with comments. Let dead artists rest. At the exhibit's launch, Violet spotted Dave in the crowd, wearing a borrowed suit. He lingered by Clara's portrait of Elena, eyes glistening. She was something, he rasped. Violet handed him a tissue. Still is. Driving home, Violet detoured to the lake. Moonlight rippled over water, blurring the line between past and present. Some legacies, she thought, weren't in paint or deeds, but in choices. Her phone lit up. Emily sending a photo of the cottage sign, now reading Clara, Thomas, and the liars who loved them. Violet chuckled. Even in chaos, family stuck. Messy, imperfect, but trying. As for Dave, he hung Thomas's sketch of the lake house in his studio. The review pinned beneath said it all. 1 star. Art's okay. Owner's worse. The final court hearing arrived on a brittle winter morning. Violet sat flanked by Mateo and Emily, their tables stacked with Clara's diaries and Thomas's disputed blueprints. Lucas Silva's lawyer smirked, citing century-old property laws. But when the judge called for evidence, Violet played Dave's security footage, Lucas bribing him, the concrete-filled cellar, and Dave's raspy warning, "Tell Vi, the safe's got proof." The courtroom stilled as Violet opened the newly discovered safe. Inside lay a 1958 deed, signed by Clara and Thomas, granting the land to future guardians who honor love over greed. Lucas stormed out, his slam echoing like a gunshot. The judge's gavel fell, claim denied. The land remains with its rightful keeper. They celebrated at the lake house, Elena humming as she stirred cocoa by the fire. But the wind felt hollow when Emily answered a call, her face crumbling. Dave was gone. In his studio, they found a sketchbook, pages filled with shaky recreations of Clara's murals. On the last sheet, he'd drawn Violet as a girl, fishing on the dock. Beneath it, "Should have been better. Sorry. Violet scattered his ashes under the cracked oak, its branches clawing the gray sky. Rest, uncle, she whispered. The wind snatched the words, leaving only the lake's murmur. Months later, the lake house reopened as the Guardian Sanctuary, a nonprofit for artists escaping persecution. Mateo curated Thomas's blueprints in the lobby. Emily managed bookings, her wedding plans now dust. At the ribbon cutting, Violet hung Clara's locket in a glass case, its photo of Clara and Elena glowing under museum lights. That night, as snow hushed the pines, Violet found Elena asleep by the fire, Thomas's letters in her lap. She tucked Clara's quilt around the old woman's shoulders and stepped onto the dock. Ice fringed the shoreline, but beneath it, the water flowed, relentless. Her phone buzzed, a message from Mateo. Found more letters. They named you, you know. Guardian wasn't random. Attached was a scan of Clara's elegant script. Someday, a fighter will rise from our blood. Trust her. Violet smiled, her breath clouding the stars. Some legacies weren't burdens. They were compasses. In spring, hikers would find Dave's sketchbook nailed to a trailside tree, warped by rain. Most ignored it, but one teen snapped a photo captioning, "Proof people can change. Sorta." As for Violet, she sat with Elena on the porch, sipping lemonade as artist laughter spilled from the cottage. The lake held its secrets, but she'd learned to listen, not for answers, but for the quiet hum of stories still unfolding. Somewhere, a brush stroked a canvas. Somewhere, a liar swallowed his pride. And somewhere, Clara danced.